guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm happy you're here, and I'm happy that I'm here to talk to you guys. So let's just get right into today's video. As you can see by the title, this is about having a victim mindset, right? And taking accountability. You know, you have to hold yourself accountable, not just everyone else. So I want to make a huge disclaimer before I start everything, is that this is not a video that is meant to victim blame anybody. Obviously, there are going to be certain circumstances where some things will be easier said than done, and obviously I'm not talking about those certain circumstances. But we'll get more into the video and you will see more of like where I'm coming from and what I'm really talking about. So first off, do not play the victim card. Sometimes, or there will be, let's say that there will be a time where that card will decline. That card is going to decline at some point. At some point, your excuses and your trauma will not be an excuse. And I say that from a place of experience. I say that from a place of someone who has been through a lot. Someone who, you know, dealt with depression and dealt with certain kinds of abuse and all these things, you know, losses in the family, and there's a lot of trauma there. However, I do not identify with it. This is something that is a part of my past, but it does not make me. It is not who I am. It might have led to who I am as a person now, but it's just not my identity. Like, I don't identify myself with it. When you go up to a person and you introduce yourself, you're not going to say, "Hi, my name is Sage and I was emotionally abused at 5 years old." You're not going to do that because that's not really who you are. And I can understand trauma does affect your day-to-day life if you allow it, though, and that's what mainly this whole thing is going to be about. So playing the victim card is not going to work, and I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't do the victim card. Because first of all, you're only a victim if you allow yourself to be. Like I said, only if you identify with it is when everyone will see you as such and you will see yourself as such. And when you portray yourself as a victim and when you let your mind believe you are a victim, you become weaker. You become weaker minded. You don't have motivation to do things anymore. You don't care about yourself anymore. You don't have hope for the future anymore because you identify so much with your past. And I understand sometimes that past can be very heavy, and sometimes it's hard to go about your day-to-day life thinking about the fact that, you know, you wish that your past was better and you didn't deserve it. No, you didn't deserve it. And it would be great if your past was better, but the thing is, the past does not exist. You can't go back to it to change everything, and you can't rewrite your story. The only thing you can focus on is now. What can you do now to turn it around? Now, don't make the mistake of identifying with your past and then just reliving your past because you do that. A lot of people, like for example, there's a lot of people who have children when they shouldn't. And I say that because they have so much like baggage, so much trauma carried with them that they don't heal from and they don't stop identifying with, and then they have children and they unpack their trauma onto their children. And that's what I mean when I say, like, you can't identify with it. You're not going to make your life any better. You're just going to create the same story because you're holding on to that same narrative that no longer is a part of you anymore. It's not here anymore. And you are just not your trauma. You're not. What someone else did to you does not define who you are. That's who they are. And it is not your fault. And I want to say that again. Whatever happened to you and whatever someone did to you is not your fault. And because it is not your fault, there is no point in holding on to it anymore. Because that's not who you are. That's who they are. There is no point in holding that. There's no point in taking it with you. That's not part of your identity. There's nothing you can do about that but to help yourself move on. And I'm telling you, like, holding onto that victim card, it does nothing but hold you back. When you carry resentment and when you carry anger with you like that, you are never going to be successful. And we're going to talk more about that later. But it really does hold you back. Like, when I would get in that mindset of, like, what's the point anyway? Like, I was dealt a bad hand. I might as well just live in it. And there's no hope for me. There's no hope for the world. I literally was, like, rotting every day. I wasn't doing my homework. I was doing drugs. I was failing school. I was skipping class. And this is me in my sophomore year of high school. So that's like 15, 16-year-old Sage. And that's really young to be having to go through stuff like that. And I ended up kind of repeating the same cycle for myself. Like I said earlier, I was holding on to all the trauma I had into like the little faith I had for my future as well. I had both my past and my worry for the future affecting my present. So therefore I stayed stagnant and I stayed depressed. And because I was holding on to the fact that I had abusive relationships as a child, I ended up getting into another one in high school. And I want to make it very clear though, I think it's important to mention that abuse isn't just physical. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. And in this situation, I was being basically bullied by the person that I was in a relationship with. And this person was beating me down with their words every day, treating me like shit all the time. I was stressed over them. I was crying over them. I was like, I completely acted out of character over them. And I realized over time that, wow, like, you know, that was just a repeat. I was again in the same cycle, the same abusive and emotionally draining relationship that I've had with like family members in the past, because I was holding on to that. I identified with my trauma so much that it happened right in front of me all over again. So how did I get out of this though? I had to hold myself accountable. And I will tell you guys ways that helped me. I don't know if it'll help for you, I'll be honest. I don't guarantee this, but that's the fun in everything. It's trial and error. You will find things that work, you'll find things that don't. And in that type of situation, you don't lose. Because if anything, you're just gaining a stronger relationship with yourself. So by all means, I encourage everyone to do the trial and error. For me personally, I watched self-help videos and I started to become more in tune with my spirituality. I did things that made me feel good, that cleared my mind. So I would meditate sometimes. I would do my yoga every now and then. I would take walks outside, things that brought me peace and cleared my mind and helped me feel a bit more relaxed. And I also journaled. I wrote about my feelings. I wrote about things that I wanted for myself. I wanted to write about my present and what was upsetting me in my present. And over time, I became stronger mentally, but I was not perfect. And I still am not. But I am better. And I feel like that is all that matters. Like, don't strive for perfect, just strive for better. Because I don't think anyone should really expect perfection, because to be perfect is to peak, and you never want to peak. You always want to keep, you know, elevating to something better. So you always have something to live for, something to look forward to, something to, you know, be excited to go to bed for and wake up for. So that's how my mind started to shift. So at some point, I really did need to hold myself accountable, and I had to realize, like, hey, like, you know, the world doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. We all know it's going to end at some point. And for some odd reason, that had a toll on me at this age. Like, I just thought, whatever, we're all going to die anyway. Why even try in school? But honestly, I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know if it was going to happen today, tomorrow, in 100 years. I didn't know that. And you could choose to let that discourage you, or you can let it encourage you. Maybe it's the fact that I know I have very little time here, like, or let me not say very little time. Oh my gosh. Knock on wood. That is like terrible wording. I know that time is limited on earth for everyone, which is exactly why I should make that time worth it. Every second, like every single day, I want to make it worth it. I want to have something to live for, so then I don't die regretting my life and feeling like I could have at least done more. Look at how much time I had, you know? And I had to shift my mindset. Sometimes you have to go to the opposite of what you're thinking. I'm thinking, what's the point? We're all gonna die anyway. And I'm gonna be like, we're all gonna die anyway, so that's exactly the point. Like, that's exactly why I have to get up and go to school and say hi to my friends and make plans and, you know, enjoy nature and just like do things I enjoy. So I also had to just look at myself like, you did this to yourself. Like, you chose to rot in bed. You chose not to go to class. You chose to skip. You chose to smoke weed. You chose to, you know, continue to be in this shitty relationship with some guy, and you chose to not heal. These are all things you chose to do, and you knew you had the option. You have the option to not do these things. And I said, you know what? I have the option then. That doesn't mean it's too late now. So I'm going to turn it around then. And sometimes you just have to look at yourself and be like, girl, shame on you. Because sometimes the blame can be on you. It might not be 100% yours, but you have to take accountability, because at the end of the day, you control what you do. At the end of the day, you decide where you want to go. What do you want to do with your life? And I decided I don't want to do my homework. I decided I want to indulge in weed. I want to indulge in the drugs. I decided I'm going to stay with this guy, even after he bullied me and like was talking down on me and, you know, just like humiliating me. I chose to stay there. I chose that. And I don't blame myself for that happening to me. But I do acknowledge the fact that I could have gotten myself out of that situation. But I'm not going to hold on to it now, because it's over. I got myself out eventually, and that's all that matters. I'm healthy now. I'm okay now, and I have much more respect for myself now. And that is how you take accountability without hurting your feelings. That's how you take accountability without just, you know, being mean to yourself, without completely shaming yourself and beating yourself down, you know? So it's important to do that shadow work, like to just be like, okay, why am I in this situation? How do I get myself out? And what is it that's keeping me here? What is, like, write down the mindset that you're in, the mindset that is keeping you so stagnant, the mindset that's keeping you depressed or angry or upset all the time. And really look into that. Shadow work is quite literally facing your own shadow. So it's facing that darkness and confronting it and, you know, bringing your light into that darkness. There's always going to be like, it's like a yin and yang situation. In life, there's always going to be contrast. We won't know what's good for us without there being bad things. You won't know what is healthy without there being unhealthy things. There has to be a balance of good and bad, or negative and positive, or light and dark, whatever you want to see it as. So it's important to let yourself face that shadow, to not completely ignore it as if it doesn't exist, but to just talk to it and say, hey, what's going on? Like, why are we feeling this way? And what do I need to do to allow myself to feel better? So write that down. It's important to look up shadow work questions. I'm sure you can find it on Pinterest, Safari, like whatever. Just search up shadow work questions wherever. TikTok even. So, and yeah, it's important to just ask, why am I feeling this way? What can I do to make myself feel better? What are some things that make me happy? What are the things that make me unhappy? How can I change my life around, right? And it's important to hold yourself accountable like this, because you're ending a cycle. Just like I said earlier, I was holding so like tightly on my past and so tightly on my fears of the future and defining myself with it, so much so that I like it's like the cycle started to happen for me. Like it's just I started to repeat old things and have the same type of abuse come to me and the same guilt and like hatred for myself, and all of these things were coming back to me, right? I was reverting to my little self. And if I hadn't turned my life around sooner, I feel like I would have still been in the same cycle of getting into these shitty relationships where I'm not respected as a human being and not respecting myself as a human being and still indulging in drugs and still not getting sleep and treating myself so horribly. And eventually it could get to a point where I have a kid at a time I don't want one, in a time I'm not really ready for one, not mentally ready and, you know, stable for one, and then passing all of that trauma onto my kid, and then so on. I don't want that. The cycle ends here. I don't want that for myself in the future, and I don't want that for my child in the future. I want the rest of my bloodline to be happy people. And if that is not motivation for you, if you don't want kids or anything, that is perfectly fine. Just think about how you want your future you to be happy, how you want to die peacefully. You want to die being grateful, feeling like, you know what, ultimately, I am happy. Like, all in all, I'm happy with my life. It wasn't perfect, but at least I'm content. You know, so just ending that cycle is just so good. And I also do believe in spiritual karma. If you don't believe in it, that's okay, but I do want to talk about it. I just feel that there's so many stagnant souls on earth, so many people who died without changing their life around, died without looking deep within and having a relationship with themselves, died holding a bunch of resentment and holding a bunch of hatred, and they stay here and they haunt, and they stay here and they're angry, and it's simply because they weren't able to just let go of that anger when they were alive. So it follows them to the afterlife until they finally just figure out how to rest. If you're not resting when you're alive, how do you expect to rest when you're dead? Because at the end of the day, this outside is just a shell. This is just physical, but your soul is forever. Everything that I am right now is who I am on the inside. This is my soul speaking, not my body, my soul. So I might, one day, my soul will leave this body, but it will remain. My consciousness remains, because all of that is energy. Everything is made of energy, and energy lasts forever. Energy was here before you got here. Energy will be here after you leave. So if all this on my insides, my whole spirit is energy, and when this body goes to waste or goes to sleep, however you want to put it, my soul will go out there, and whatever I held in my consciousness while alive will go in the afterlife. So I want to have the most peaceful mindset I can possibly have, and the most content mindset I can possibly have, so my consciousness can be at ease when I perish. So that is what I believe with spiritual karma. And if you are a Christian, I mean, it's ultimately the same as heaven and hell. Like, if you're unhealed and you've been a shitty person, or, you know, you don't turn to God, or whatever. I hope I'm wording that right. But ultimately, it's like, okay, you're an unhealed and not very good person, you're not well, you go to hell. And when you're the opposite of that, you go to heaven. So if you're Christian, you can think about it that way. You probably have a better way of explaining it, though. So I do apologize if I explained it kind of shitty. That's just the best way I can put it, in the most simplest terms, so then it makes sense to everybody. So for whatever you believe in, like, it applies. And even if you are not religious or spiritual, like, my point still stands with just don't die being a shitty person. Don't die being angry. Die so you can die peacefully. you know. It doesn't even have to have any spiritual or like, you know, religious thing to it. So, and also like, guys, this one irritates me the most, and this one is complaining without working on your situation. I've had friends in the past who would constantly complain, and I believe like we all have our hard times, we all go through things, we all have moments where we want to rant and complain, but when it is a hard time for you every time, or you always have some negative shit going on with you, it's like, it's hard to be around you. And at that point, when I feel like someone is kind of draining my energy because theirs is so low, that's when I know like this person needs to look within themselves. I need to, you know, distance myself, because it's to a point where your energy is getting a little bit too negative, like it's starting to pass over. And at some point I also get into that same mentality. You really have to watch who you surround yourself with, but that'll be another video. So I would get upset when it's like the constant like, oh, like I just hate my body, like I just want to like be skinny and healthy, I want your body, and oh, like I want to do this and I want to do that. I'm like, okay, so how about we make a plan? Like maybe you can work out maybe 2 times a week, or maybe just even 1. And you don't even have to do it for too long. Maybe it doesn't even have to be a hard workout. Maybe you just go outside for a walk around the block, or like giving all types of solutions, because I'm a very solution-based, like logical person when it comes to problems. So don't come to me with your problems if you do not want a solution. Hashtag Capricorn. Like, so, and then they'll be like, yeah, but, and the moment you do that, yeah, but, I'm done. I'm like, I'm tapped out. I can't help you. Because sometimes when you get in that victim mindset and when you think so low of yourself, you start to like your problems because you're so comfortable there. And this person was also like picked on by family and friends about her weight. And I thought that was so messed up and sad, because at the end of the day, it's your parents' fault if you become at that point, because at the end of the day, those are the people who feed you. And but to also pick on your child knowing that you're the one feeding them, that's just messed up. Like, come on, it's not her fault. It was never her fault. And I am like, that's messed up. That's not your fault. However, you're old enough now to turn that around. And there's no pressure to do it perfectly and to do it right away. Just do it step by step. And I was, you know, being supportive of that, you know, and it's just, they didn't really want the solution. They just wanted to rant. You can rant, but you know, it gets to a point, and at some point you do start to enjoy your problems once you identify with that trauma for too long. And you don't want to love your problems because you will never grow. You'll never have a solution. There's a story that I was told about, I don't remember who told me this story, but it was a story from the Bible, I think. I'm not religious anymore, but I do remember this story, and I think it's actually very helpful. So there was a man, I don't know his name, but he was drowning in the ocean, and there was I guess he prayed to God for help. He prayed God to send help, or like for him to come and help him from drowning. And there was a person who came and offered their help. They're like, hey, let me get you out of there. Like, are you good? And he's like, no, don't save me. God's gonna save me. And then another person's like, hey, like, you're drowning. Let me help you. No, leave me alone. God is gonna save me. I shall stay here and drown until he saves me. And then another person, and eventually it led to his death, because God had told him, like, he will send someone to help you. Those people who came to help you was God. It wasn't God physically, but that was God sending someone to help you. And like the way that I like that story applies so well to so many things. And for me, how I look at it, um, it's just whenever I am like, I might call out to the universe or just like talk out loud to open space. I don't know. I'm just like, oh, I really want to sign, or I really want this to happen for me. I need, like, I want this type of success in this part of my life, or whatever the case. And then I receive an opportunity. So I'm like, I see. Okay, so I will take that opportunity. It seems like that can help me out. You know, it's just, it's kind of like that. So don't be so addicted to your problems, because you will drown. And I will say, shifting into this mindset really, really, really changed my life, honestly. I mentioned earlier that, like, growing up, I had a lot of stress and trauma that I dealt with, a lot of emotional abuse and emotional neglect, and there's so many things that I really wish that I could just do for little me. And I might not be able to go back in time and fix everything. However, I can heal my inner child right now as 20-year-old Sage. I can do all the things that I wish that I had as a little girl, and do those things for myself now. And I do feel like holding that resentment towards the people who have gave me that trauma really, like, has held me back in a way, because it kind of had me have this like just anger in me, like dormant anger. Like, it's not fully gone, it's kind of just sitting there and waiting for something to like tick it off so it explodes out, you know. And it's just, it's a work in progress. Is something that I still want to, you know, go to therapy for and just like talk about more, because I feel like the amount that I've went through is just not going to be solved, or like at least, you know, like calm down a bit just by journaling and talking about it on camera. Although it does help, and it really has helped so far throughout the years. However, I do feel like I could, you know, I could really use a couple therapy sessions. So I do encourage everyone to go to therapy. Like, I went to therapy for the first time a few months ago, and it literally changed my life. Like, I really needed that, and I'm very grateful to the therapist I went to go see. But today I learned that resentment really does hold you back and keep you from being successful. And when you hold that resentment towards those people, you start to become like those people. And I suggest you go watch Jonathan Parker here on YouTube. He talks a lot about this. He has a series on the steps to, I think it's called like the steps to becoming successful, or steps to success, or something along the lines of that. And it's about like 10 to 12 videos. And I'm specifically referring to, I believe, is it the 10th video? Actually, I might be lying. Just watch all of them, honestly. They're pretty long, but honestly, like, if you want, you can always ask YouTube to summarize it. It's up to you. But I like long form content, so I do think that what he said was just like very eye-opening. Like, wow, like me have still being kind of upset about those things, which is like rightfully so, but it's like he made a good point about the past not existing. So I'm like, yeah, shit, it really doesn't exist. Like, I'm mad about something I quite literally cannot control anymore. Like, there's literally nothing I can do. It's not tangible. Like, I can't see it, I can't touch it, I can't be there physically anymore. So it's like, it's unproductive. It's literally like, it's not worth the anger. And one time my therapist told me, when I was feeling really guilty about something I did to someone, and I was going to therapy and I was talking about it, and I want to make it very clear, it wasn't anything like jail time worthy, by the way. I'm still a good human being. Like, the morals are still right. It's just we make mistakes. And I'm like because of what I've been through, like, I naturally, like, just guilt myself a lot when it comes to certain things, like the most minor mistakes, and I like feel super guilty of it, and I think I'm a horrible person over it, and it like affects my whole way of living. So I went to therapy about it, and she told me, like, you know, why be guilty? Like, it's not helping your situation. Like, she didn't say this exactly, but like, basically being guilty is stupid. Like, feeling guilty for something you cannot fix is stupid. Like, it's not going to change the fact that you already did it. It's not going to change the fact that it's already been done. It's not going to change your past. Like, it's going to do nothing but affect you now. And it's distracting.
Hi guys, I just want to make it very clear this does not mean I have no empathy or remorse or sympathy. I'm simply just saying that, like, once you've already apologized and did what you needed to do, there's no point of holding on to the situation because it really is unproductive and distracting. And whatever my situation was that I was so guilty about, I was guilty because obviously I felt bad. Like, I feel bad when I hurt others' feelings, and I just know that if I continued to feel bad, I would not be able to move on with my life. So, in case you didn't understand that the first time, I just wanted to make it very clear right here. I have sympathy, I have feelings.
The guilt that you are forcing onto yourself is distracting you from what's really important. And she told me, instead of feeling guilty and, you know, beating myself up over it every day, I need to put that into my schoolwork. I need to put that into my hobbies and put that into my health instead. Distract myself from that guilt, while still, of course, I took accountability. I went to therapy for it. So it's like, okay, now you can slowly let yourself move on. You don't need to keep feeling guilty anymore. And you can apply that to here with your trauma. So yeah, and your resentment, of course. So that is who I was. You know, I was a very like guilty person. I was a very depressed person, anxious person. I had very little respect for myself because I felt like it was worth it to help fix others so they can love me, and that is not my job. It's not my job to make others love me, and it's not my job to fix anyone. And, you know, I was just this girl with very little faith, very little hope for the future and for myself. And now I can proudly say that I'm quite stable mentally. I do believe in myself. I do have a lot of faith in my future. I see myself being very successful very soon. I can see myself being prosperous and wealthy and healthy and happy. And I know that I deserve a love that isn't abusive, isn't toxic, a love that is mutual. We both take care of each other spiritually, mentally, physically, and we care for each other. You know, we're there for each other. I believe that I can have a healthy relationship with my family, and I believe that I can hold people accountable and also myself accountable, and have my boundaries and decide who I allow in my life and who I do not, and be confident in my decisions. And, you know, I'm definitely turning my life around 100%. I take care of myself very well. So yeah, like, I just like, I wish younger me could just look at this and be like, oh my gosh, so wait, like, we actually got better. Like, it gets better. Because she needed that. I don't know. There was so much going on there. But anyway, I hope this video helped at least one person besides myself. And I'm happy that I could be here and go back to this sitting and being real type of content, because I truly do love it. So thank you so much for watching and listening. I love you all. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay prosperous. Love you.